Mr. Owner, I tried to use the irrigation, but it's not working. I'm having trouble with the garage door. The washer and dryer are not working. Do you like getting those phone calls? Do you know there's going to be a cost in repairs? Yeah. Can we do anything about that? Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can't. So the question today, can we exclude items from the lease? Well, yes, we can. But is it that simple? Unfortunately, no, it's not. Because sometimes there is good reason to exclude an item from the lease, but sometimes that can cause more problems than benefit. How is that possible? I'm going to fill out my lease and say I'm not responsible for anything. It's all the tenant's problem. How many tenants are renting because they want to maintain your house? In residential, a person is renting so that it is not their responsibility. Now, in a commercial market, industrial property, that is absolutely different. But in residential, the tenant is expecting the owner to maintain the property. So what is in your lease? What is in your property? Do you have a checklist? Maybe that's a good starting point. If I walk through my house, oh, I do have an irrigation system, but that thing hasn't worked in 15 years. Oh, look, there's that builder alarm system that has turned yellow because it's been sitting there for so long and we've never used it. What about those smoke detectors? These are little items. Some of them we have to maintain, like the smoke detectors. But what about the irrigation system or the alarm system that are inoperable? Do we have something in our lease that clearly states, no, this is not maintained? Or is it left open? If it's left open, Mr. Owner, I was excited that it had irrigation so I don't have to water the yard every day. What was the tenant's expectation? Sometimes our lease can be far more important than we give it credit for. So let's take a moment and think about the property. What are some items that we know are broken and are not necessary for someone to enjoy the property? That old builder alarm system that nobody has ever used is not necessary. If the irrigation system does not work, the yard already looks a set way, it's not necessary. But what if it does work? Well, the irrigation has become a very necessary part of our yard. We need the irrigation to work. If we put the tenant is responsible for irrigation, are they going to maintain that? No, absolutely not. What about when we get into the house? I'm going to include these appliances because I know they're attractive, but I don't want to maintain them. Can you do that? Sure. But what's the reality? Is the tenant going to spend money to fix your appliances? No, absolutely not. What if you put a dollar amount that the tenant has to pay first before you call somebody? Is that a good idea? Maybe it keeps you from getting unnecessary phone calls. But what happens when you have a real problem, but it's not a big enough problem to the tenant? And they don't feel the need to pay that fee. Are they going to call you right away? Or maybe you don't discover that problem until they move out and you realize there was a bigger problem. Was it wise to exclude or add a fee? When we rent a property, this is a business. We are providing a property for someone to live in, a business to operate. We need to think about our customer. We need to think about the asset that we own and what is best for the long term. So there are plenty of things that are broken and do not work, do not affect the day-to-day life. But then there are other things that are very important. The tenant may not expect is their responsibility, or they may simply not maintain themselves. Have you run into a problem? maybe a sticky situation at the move out, and then you wanted to add it to the security deposit claim? That goes back to the question, can you? Just because the lease said one thing doesn't mean you could hold your ground if you went to court. Let's talk about your property. Let's talk about your lease. And let's talk about those items that you are maintaining, the items you should maintain, and maybe a couple that you don't need to maintain. My name is Baron McWright with Northeast Florida Realty. I look forward to talking to you very soon.